seemed like the right time when it was kind of 10 years. I'd done enough touring, I didn't want to go on tour. And after doing all those EPs, it seemed like a nice time to just say, right, that's 10 years. Best ofs are always, the titles are always and it just came to me one afternoon, sat at the kitchen table. It's, you know, it's a saying, isn't it? Back the way we came, you know. And of course, you're looking back over a 10-year period. And I actually thought it's a great title, which is why it's got Volume 1, right? Because if there's Volume 2, I'm not coming up with another title. It's great. You can't fight the feeling, and all is the same. The first thing I'm going to do, I was very sure that I was going to do nothing. And then from 2009 to kind of 2010, I did virtually nothing. I got completely away from music. I don't think I even wrote any songs. My missus said to me, you know, what are you going to do? Make a record, I suppose. And then started thinking about it and just took it as I do. Took it day by day, song by song. I was just kind of focusing on one song at a time, and I think the first thing I did was Everybody's on the Run. That sounded great. Well, let's go on to the next one. And then we had an album, and that was it. Everybody's on the run. It was the first song in the set when I went on the first tour. And I remember when people who've worked for me, some of the lads from Manchester, when playing my new album, and they were like, as Everybody's on the Run or Follow, they were like, you're not about, are you? I wrote that when I was in Oasis, and I'd written it in that key, and I remember at the time thinking, well, this doesn't sound anything like, who's going to sing this? No, it's kind of a little bit like Important to Be an Idol, I guess. And I never actually saw us doing it, but when I came to record it for the first High Flying Birds album, when it was all finished and there was the sit down round the table of what was going to be the first single, everybody wanted If I Had a Gun or What a Life, and I thought that was being a bit obvious. And if push comes to shove, I think Deafy and Me might be my favourite of all the songs I've done solo. I just love the sound of it all. And I just thought, okay, well, let's put this one out first, because then this is not Oasis 2.0, whatever the saying is. Well, that was, yeah, because there's nothing like it on that first record, and there's nothing like it that Oasis had done before. Yeah, it was a gateway into something else. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have wrote Ballad of the MIGHTYI. And if I hadn't have written the Ballad of the MIGHTYI, I'd have never got to Who Built the Moon. So all the great songs lead you down the road to something else, do you know what I mean? Thank God for that song. It's an amazing tune, and I remember great few days doing the video with Russell Brand in the desert in California. Having such a laugh. Yeah, just one of those songs that I find very easy to write. Didn't take me very long. I think I wrote it in a morning, do you know what I mean? It's not really particularly about anything. It fell out of the sky one morning. Yeah, the record was made with me and Mike, who's my keyboard player, and Jeremy, who was then my drummer. But I hadn't put a band together then. But that touring band, yeah, it was good. I mean, it was great. It was great, and I didn't expect to be playing the O2 so quick. That kind of freaked me out a little bit. I felt that I wasn't worthy of it. I thought it was too soon. If my next tour was put on sale and the O2, I'd embrace it now. I just felt I wasn't really. I felt people weren't coming to hear this record. They were coming to see a bit of cabaret, to see, you know, knocking out all the old tunes, and it's like, that's not what I want to do. So I was really surprised at how it took off. I wasn't expecting it at all. You know, it started off in a tiny club in Dublin. There must have been like 500 people there. and that was great. And then all of a sudden it blew up. But looking back on it now, it blew up because the record sold a load. I mean, it sold 1 million albums, you know, and that was like Oasis levels. And so yeah, so in hindsight, maybe I was being a bit tough on myself. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it gave me enough confidence to put a full stop on that thing that I was known for, and to then try and develop the instrumentation and take it somewhere else. Chasing Yesterday, I think, was almost finished, and I didn't feel that there was a lead single off it. And I think we were running out of time, and I challenged myself to write a single. I've done that before with Lila and Supersonic, and we've done it down the years. And I was watching a program about the Apollo moon landings, and one of the astronauts said that what it feels like being shot up into space in a rocket on top of a huge bomb. It's like it said you can touch the face of God. And I was like, that's the first line for a start. And it's great live, and I think in terms of views and streamings, I think it's my most popular song. But there's still something that bugs me about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm in LA on holiday with Sarah and the kids. And Russell Brand is living there at the time. So we go see Russell, and he's like, oh, what are you doing tomorrow? Or what are you doing Wednesday? And I said, Morrissey knows you're in town, wants to go out. And I was like, great, let's go out. So we go to this English pub, and now I love Morrissey, he's right, I mean, I adore him. He's one of the funniest men I've ever met. And anyway, this night, it's one of the funniest nights I've ever had out. I think I was crying laughing at one point because he's fucking funny. Anyway, he brought a CD to the bar, not of his own music, but like a compilation CD, and the music's dreadful, put the CD on. And so there's all this I'd never heard of, and I was saying, who's this? And he's like, come on, got to number 14 in 1974. And I was like, who is it? Anyway, this one tune was that came on, I thought it sounded amazing, was by Brian Prothero. It's called Pinball, right? And so I'm in the studio, and I've got this tune, which is a bit kind of like Bob Dylan. It's a bit finger-picky kind of thing. And I was going to do it the next day. And just before I left the studio, I was saying, right, so tomorrow we're going to do this, and I put a bit, and guys were there, and they were like, okay. And then I said, oh, by the way, have you ever heard this tune by Brian Prothero called Pinball? No one had ever heard it, so we put it on in the studio really loud, and a light came on, and I thought, never mind that finger-picking thing. This tune that I'm writing will work in that style. So I went home and rearranged it, came in the next day, and did it all in a day, and it blows me away, that song. And my engineer, who can play the guitar, it got to the solo bit, and I've really lost all the talent I had for playing the lead guitar is gone. I left it in Paris in 2009. I can't do it anymore. And I said, I'll have a go solo on that. Go on then. And he did this solo and was like, wow. And then the whole saxophone thing became a thing then. And if I hadn't have written Riverman, I would never have written the right stuff, and it would never have been went jazz for a week. But I love Riverman, one of my favourite ever pieces of music. Incredible. Well, Lock All the Doors, when I did the Chemical Brothers track Setting Sun, you know, the devil in me was the verse of this tune called Lock All the Doors, right? And for some reason, I'd had that song in the early days of Oasis. And the verse fit, and I thought, it's all right because I'll keep the chorus and I'll just write another verse. Anyway, it took me best part of 20 years to write another verse, and it's such a ridiculous thing. It was in the middle of winter. This is what I know about it. It was in the middle of winter. I'd been watching City versus Everton, and I went to the Tesco Metro round our way after the game had finished. So it's 6 o'clock, dark, not thinking of anything. And I remember coming round the parade of shops by the Boots, and all of a sudden, I just started singing it. That was it. I don't know why. The first line just popped into my head. I wasn't even thinking of that song, and got home and was like, oh, that sounds good. I'm going to put it with that, and kind of a moment of alchemy, you know, where it's like, see, I love doing that. I've got a vault of bits of songs. I love putting 2 or 3 songs together, trying to kind of make them all work. And that was one of those. And yeah, again, it's great live, brilliant live, and yeah, it's got half an Oasis tune. It's another one of those songs, like If I Had a Gun. I find those songs easy to write, and it was written all pretty much in one go. Very, very simple. I actually didn't think much of it till about 6 months ago. I didn't play a lot on that tour. I thought it kind of dragged on a bit. But I always loved the words. There's something very honest about it. And the words are just like the journey of life, you know, that never quite getting to where you want to be. I think 99% of the population not suffer from that, but are on that journey of, you know, next year or the year, but never quite getting there. There's something quite romantic about that. I remember when the chords go funny in the verse, there's a funny chord in it, which is like in footballing terms. It's like a centre forward telling you a dummy. It's like that chord should not fit with that chord, and it did. And when I finished the song and was kind of listening back to it on headphones, I was thinking, is it a song about a stalker? You know what I mean? Like somebody's followed somebody to the end of the world, they're not leaving. It's like, what's that saying? But I'll forever remember it for Johnny Marr's guitaring. When you get him playing on a track, it isn't the Johnny Marr show. It's like he'll do exactly what is needed for the song. He won't let you tell him what to do, but he'll do it, and it'll be amazing. But I've often wondered. I mean, I've known the guy, right? And I'm sitting watching him. Physically looks like he's doing nothing, and yet out of the speakers is coming this thing. And you're just like, how does he do that? I can't work out how he does it. I've had that song for quite a while, but never really said, yes, it is finished. And so I've never taken it to be recorded. But we were going in the studio for a week. We were going to do these 2 tracks for this thing, and I didn't want them to be new tracks off a next record. So I was at home going through a few things. It's great, but it's so flawed, right? And I'll tell you why. The vocal on it is a guide vocal, right? And something happened in the studio where we could never get the sound back. I sang the words that are on there now, and I've effectively had to leave them because everything, I went back to do it and it didn't sound as good. But I think it's a great song, and I know people are going to love it. If they loved If I Had a Gun and Dying the Light and all that, it's kind of one of those songs. The left turn change didn't really come until after Chasing Yesterday. That's when it started to get great for me. Yeah, and I've got to say, I mean, David, I loved working with him, and I'd say if there are 10 major influences in my musical career, he's right up there with them, because he was the first person that ever said to me, you know that thing that you do, it's great, but you don't keep doing it though, do you? And I'd never thought of it, and I was like, no. You know, and he was, the night before we started the album, we were playing records, and he was saying, you know, playing tunes to each other, and he's saying, why do you never make the music that you listen to? Because I don't really, I mean, I listen to the Beatles and the Stones and all that kind of thing, but I don't really listen to indie rock, as great as it is. He was saying, why don't you make the music you listen to? I was like, it never occurred to me that I don't own a drum machine. I don't, you know, I didn't have this place then, I didn't have a studio, so I was always sitting at home with a guitar. And he was saying, right, well, we're going to make this record, we're going to make it with no ideas, we're just going to, you know, you're going to come in every day and we're going to see what happens. And that was, honestly, it was amazing. It was amazing. And one of the great periods of my life, you know, was going to work to his house and not knowing what I was going to do that day. And that album took 4 and a bit years to make, and it didn't really start taking shape for 2.5 years. They were all just snippets from music. So on the first hour of the first day of Who Built the Moon, the first thing David Holmes played me was the thing that goes, and it was by, I don't know what the song is called, but it's by a band called The Ice Cream. Possibly the most annoying 5 seconds music ever. And he was saying, what do you think of this? And I was going, I love it. And he said, you think you could write a song around that? And I was like, write a song. He said, that is going to be the first single, I can tell you that now. So he's going, oh great, I love that song. I love it so much. It's just the best, it's the most uplifting thing to play live. Imagine making an album, that's the first thing that you concentrate on. And it set the tone for that. That was the standard then for that record. And you know, there's a bit of Plastic Bertrand in there, and there's, you know, it's like bubblegum, 60s bubblegum or 70s bubblegum pop. But yeah, I'm very, very, very proud of that piece of music. Now, I always thought that everything that I ever did, whether it be with Oasis or whatever, the reaction was always mixed. I wasn't expecting it to be that mixed, I've got to say. I was a bit like, no, people really are not having it. And I couldn't believe it, because when David played me that little sample, I thought then it was one of the best things I'd ever created, and I still think that now. And then then there was the avalanche of like people not being into it. I was like, that really was like, hell, wow. But then we played it on stage at a stadium, which had never heard it before, right, in South America. And we didn't have a brass section, we were just playing it at the gig in front of 70,000 U2 fans. And I looked up and the entire stadium had the phones out, and I was like, well, who's right and who's wrong here, you know what I mean? It started with the guitar riff, and it's a live take of me and Emre, who was the engineer mixer on Who Built the Moon. It's him playing drums, just jamming, and David had recorded it and kind of chopped it all up. Well, how we would work was, on Who Built the Moon, I would go in, play synthesizers, anything, you just anything, and add into an idea. And I only worked from midday till 6. His whole thing was, it's great that you leave at 6, because then I can, you know, chop it all up and do my thing. I came in the next day and he'd arranged this piece of music and it sounded great. I've got to put a bass on it. And then as it took shape, it got to the middle bit. And I remember us both being stood at the mixing desk, and he looked at me and he said, what are we going to do here? And I don't know why, he said, I could just hear a French girl saying something. And he was like, okay. And he knew Charlotte. He asked her to do something over it. And I think we sent her this piece of, we found this bit of thing, and it was a train station announcement over the tannoy in French from like 1940 something. And yeah, she came in and banged it. And it's great. I mean, I'm really proud of that piece of music. You know, I mean, all that album, because all of it were germs that came from nothing. It's a really, really special, and I love the sound of it. She is announcing the end of the world, and I didn't know what she was saying, right? It's attention, ladies and gentlemen. It's around the time of Brexit, so the borders are closing in. Something about carbon monoxide. Something about, yeah, it was kind of, and the last bit is, it's okay, it's just the end of the world. When I found out what she said, I'd have got her to change it to say it's okay, it's not the end of the world. I don't like negative things like that. But it's an amazing piece of music. She's great, and she's become a dear friend.
If you're happy, I'd love one more time.
So I'm doing a session in Dublin, and I'm doing The Dying of the Light was the single that was out at the time. And a guy keeps coming out with a microphone and he's around. And I'd written this song, not literally the night before, but a couple of weeks before. And I knew, you know, it's amazing that I actually knew it enough to sing it live. And I didn't know everything was being recorded. And as he's fanning around over the other side of the room, got headphones on, and I just start playing it. And there are times, right, when you're in the studio where, like with Black Star Dancing, where magic is happening here, do you know what I mean? Everything is working. Every random idea that you have is working for the song, and it's perfect. But then there are times, and I think it's the only time I've ever experienced this, is when the musical equivalent of God walks into the room and takes over. It's never mentioned afterwards. We do Dying of the Light for the 4th time, pack up, leave, that's it. No one says a word about this song. Over a year later, maybe longer. I'm in Paris doing a TV show with one of the guys from my office who happened to be in the studio in Dublin that day. His name is Ray, and he's from Dublin. And we were looking for bonus material, which you always are when you do records these days. It's like, you know, and Ray says, what about that track you did in Dublin? And I was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And he was saying, you do, the one you did in Dublin, not Dying of the Light. There was another one, the new one that you did. And I was like, yeah, but I haven't got time to go in the studio and record it. And he said, no, I'm sure the guy recorded it. Anyway, he gets on to the guy who did in fact record it on Pro Tools, which is the tape machine. He sends me this version, and I'm like, this staggeringly unbelievable that I remembered all the words and sang them all the way through, which is why I was being guided by something. It's completely live, right? Apart from Mike, who's playing piano, he drops a couple of howlers in because he's trying to work the chords out. And there's a little edit in there of a section taken from one set, and apart from that, it's all completely one take live. And it's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. Those songs they're there forever. You know, that's crazy. When I was doing the EPs that summer, that again was another thing, because as radical as Who Built the Moon was, you know, we'd come up with the idea. My manager had said, why don't you put out an EP then while you're on tour? And me being me, I was like, I'll do better than that, I'll put out 3. You know, and what I was doing was I was on tour, and it was festival season, so you'd have a week off. You'd do a festival at the weekend, then have the week, and in the week I'd go into the studio with nothing, and I'd say to everyone, whatever I come up with, we're going to see it through, and we're going to put it out no matter what. The thrill of being in that moment of this is going out no matter what, and I'm going to do it today, and then I'm going to do another thing tomorrow. I'm just going to write the lyrics at home. Whatever, the first thing that comes into my head. To be in that moment is really thrilling, and it's frightening, and you've got to have total self-belief, and the people around you have got to be like coming with you. And that kind of outweighs everything. It's almost like a drug, you know. And, you know, a few of those songs from those EPs will stand the test of time. Black Star Dancing is one of the best things I've ever done. The Dream Is All I Need to Get By is one of my favourite things I've ever done. Wandering Star, although it's half finished, still sounds great live. So I'm cool with all that, you know what I mean? I'm good with it. It's that little noise that comes in at the beginning, which is, that to me signifies, okay, things are about to get interesting here. So on the Thursday morning I was in the shower and Fashion happened to be playing in the bedroom. I was in the shower and that down, down, down. And I just started, I literally walk into Abbey Road going boom, boom, boom. Okay, that's good. Boom, boom. And I had no idea that this thing was going to take place. Went in, put that bass line down with the advert, doom, 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 piece of piss bass line. And all the parts literally stacked up on top of one of each other. And by the Friday night, I had the outline of the song. So then it went through a few choruses, and there's a great moment for me personally when I go back into Abbey Road. I've written it, I'm happy with it. We do the vocals, it's going to be great. The guitars, we've done all that. And you know, it's an odd melody for me to sing, and Jess was singing it with me, and YC did her bit, and so we're putting it all together in Abbey Road, and I go to the toilet and someone says, "Oh, you know Noel Rodgers, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I met him through Johnny." He said, "There's Niall in there." I was like, "No way." So I went in the thing, and Niall's just sat on the mixing desk with his Strat. I'll take a picture of that. And I'm like, "No way." And he's going, "Hey man, wow." And he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm in that studio." And he said, "Oh, I'll come." He said, "Oh, I've got to go, but I'll come and say goodbye." And I said, "All right." So we go back in to our place. As we start the playback of the things on diddly, in walks Noel Rodgers, and he kind of comes in and he sits on the edge of the couch like this, and he's going, "Is this you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he went, "Have you ever seen anybody dance sitting down?" He went, it was like he was dancing sitting down, and he was doing all this, and he was going, "Hey man, it's dope." And I was like, somebody said dope in the control room. An American said dope in the control room. And when it finished, he went, "Man," he said, "You got anything else like that?" And I was going, "No." And he said, "If you ever get any more of that stuff, can I play on it?" And I was like, "Yes." And you know, when you're doing things that are a bit left field, it's great when somebody wrote the book on that thing, Four to the Floor, to come in and say, "This is great." And I was like, that's what do for me. You were talking in your sleep. That song started by me just strumming those chords and going ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, that apropos of nothing. And one of the French girls, Charlotte, actually overheard me and was like, "Ooh la la, you know, what's this?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And yeah, the session was coming up at the end of that week, and took it in there, and yeah, I love it. I genuinely love it. And I'm yet to play it live because we didn't get to do it on that tour, but I can't wait to play it live. But again, it'd be, you know, adding real strong female vocals to your sound, or to my sound anyway, has opened a whole new thing for me. That started off from Who Built the Moon. It was a song that never really went anywhere. I remember it being a ball ache to give birth to, which is never a good sign. The Manchester poet, Tony Walsh, had his book beside my bed this is the place, and I needed a thing. And I remember phoning him up the next day and saying, mate, can I use this title? And like, of course you can, kid, no problem. And when it comes on, if I'm at home and I've just got the iPod on the shuffle or whatever, and it comes on, I love it. And the reason that it's on that album is because it is amazing live. That came out of, again, nothing. I was in the studio doing these EPs, and I had an idea for a bass line that when I played it on a synth, I played it wrong, and then went back up to the control room to everyone going, that's pretty good. And it did sound pretty good. And yeah, it's kind of a bit like Kate Bush. I do like that. I do like that track. No, I've not got to play it live yet. But it's got something, and the video was a good laugh to make, and managed to get the term Blue Moon Rising into a tune, which, being a City fan, was great. I needed another song to do, and my engineer said, what's that f***ing thing you always do when you're warming up about flying on the ground? I think he said lying on the ground. And I was like, I don't know. And he said, you always do it, and I always tell you to record that song. And I'm like, this one? No, not that one. This one? No, it's not that one. And then I played Flying on the Ground. He said, that one. And I was like, really? And I was like, oh, well, okay. I was up for anything at this point. So I do a little acoustic to a click track. And I was like, you know what? We could do something with that. And when the girls came in, I'd sent them the acoustic thing. And now these are not, the girls that sing on that are not the girls in my band. They're this other three-piece backing vocalist troupe called Roxy, right? And they've got this sound. It's just the sound that you hear. And I sent them the backing track, and they always say, well, we've heard the track, and so what are we thinking? And I said, I don't know why I said this, and I said, think what would happen if Burt Bacharach wrote for Motown? And they were like, okay, great. So they arrive at the studio, they get to the mics. And now this song, at this point, it's a pretty good tune, it's all right, the words are good, the brass have not gone on, it's all right, it's going to be great, don't worry about it. And then they started doing that thing, the walk on by thing. I mean, I was blown away. Almost gave them the credit on the tune. They were just amazing. I've written songs that people have, not that people love, that people love and will die for, you know. And I get that, and it's amazing. It really is. It's a privilege to even have that, to even have had that. Even if I hadn't have done this High Flying Birds thing, and we were looking back over it would be such a privilege. You know, so many people are. You know, I was just a guy from a council estate with a guitar that made it really big. It's a calling, or it's a thing that I was born with, that I refuse to take it for granted.